Michael Kammes.
If you didn't see the, move over this way. If you didn't check out the presentation last month, I highly recommend it. This is a continuation of that presentation. You may remember that we covered things, like what Jay showed today. Remember, we used Kyber to turn Michael Horton into another young man, and we took his voice and we cloned it and we made him talk about the show. Yes. So I recommend, if you're like, well, Michael, why aren't you covering X, Y, and Z? It's because I covered it last month. So take a look. It's on the on the YouTubes. So what we're going to start tonight is part 2. So I'm going to cover some tools. I'm also going to show you how to roll your own AI. All right. So first thing, I'm horrible at color grading. I have a partial color blindness. I know that's not an excuse, but I like to lean on that. That's my crutch. So there is a tool out there called Color Lab, and I think the line is COLOUR, because it's for you. I think that's what Jeff Greenberg says. There's some marketing there, but it's an application called Color Lab. As you would imagine from an application called Color Lab, it does color grading. But its claim to fame is that it can also use AI to help get you to that first grade. So, for example, once this loads, I'm going to open up a recent project, and you may recognize one of these guys in here. Right? That's Sven right there. Sven, you're here, right? Okay, there's Sven. Sven's over there. So when we shot this was shot in Airy Raw, right? And as you know, Airy has its own color space. So what I can do with this is import media, or not import references, but import media, and I'll be able to tell it to automatically do, excuse me, file import media. I'm not importing. Okay, well that's not flying. Anyway, there are camera profiles. So every time you import media, Color Lab automatically recognizes what kind of color space you need, right? I'm sure all of us have dealt with I got this and it looks flat. Was it shot in a raw format? Was it shot in log? Is it Blackmagic film? We don't know. But this can detect the color science. And once it applies that LUT to get to the endpoint, whether it's Rec 2020, whether it's Rec 709, you can then select on it and answer your phone. You can select on it. And what you can also do is maybe use these buttons to find the brightest part in the shot, or maybe the average part of the shot. And then you can say, you know what? I want to match this using AI. So I'm going to click on this button right here. Well, actually, that's going to match it to my look. We'll do that in a minute. If I want to use AI, I can click this button here, and it's going to give me models. We'll do update versions. Use keep show look. And what it's going to do is analyze all the clips in the timeline and say, using AI, here are some different versions you may want to do, like a smart version, right? Which will encode a little bit better because, the blacks aren't crushed. We can look at something that may be better for dailies or files or theatrical. Or what I can do is say, you know what? I don't like that at all. I'm going to go back to my previous version. There we go. And then you know what? I want to do, as every bad colorist demo will do, is I'm going to do a Wes Anderson look, right? And we only do that not because we love it. Do you like it, Jason? Do you like Wes Anderson? No? Okay. But because it demos well, because it's absurd. So here is a still. This is a picture I just downloaded off the web, right? And when I double click on it, it will then apply that look to this raw file right here. So you can now take any example you want and say, hey, AI, I want you to take that as the impression that I want, and then apply it to a clip or into the entire scene. Cool? All right, I'm going to stop there because I'm not a colorist and we have a lot of stuff to get through. So let me quit that, jump back to Keynote. All right, Color Lab. This is something that is a little bit nerdy, but I think a lot of you will like using this. This is something called Anything-LLM. Now, when you're using ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4, those are LLMs, right? What they call large language models. billions of parameters, trillions of parameters fed into the system so it can understand what you're saying and answer generalized questions, right? But as anyone who's used it probably knows, they stopped training it in late 2020, late 2021. So that means, it doesn't know a lot of things that's going on in the world today. And you know what? Maybe you want to ask it questions about your tax returns. Maybe you want to ask it about something that you wrote in the novel you're writing and you can't find the answer. Well, you want to get your own stuff indexed, right? But you don't want to tell ChatGPT because then it's in the cloud and everyone is going to know someday. So what LLM does is, or what Anything-LLM does, it says, I'll use ChatGPT, but I'm also going to index your content separately so the LLM can answer questions about that document. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to click on this. And you'll see that I have some workspaces here. I'm going to create a new workspace. We're going to call this LACPUG. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say, you know what? What's the agenda for the next LACPUG meeting? And does Michael Horton ... like dogs? All right. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to hit enter. It's now going to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT this exact question. What is the agenda? Does Michael Horton like dogs? And it's going to return an answer, and it should. I don't know. That's personal. Why would you ask me that, you stupid human? But what if I added a document that said Michael Horton hates dogs? And I said, here's the agenda for the next meeting. And then I made sure to add these and say confirm changes. The software says, we're going to embed this in the workspace, which will cost about 1/4 cent, but I've already done it previously, so I'm not getting dinged. I hit continue. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type that same question into here and say, what's the agenda for the next LACPUG meeting? Does Michael like dogs? And we hit enter. ChatGPT thinks about it again. Oh, I have something else to look through. It's what we call embeddings, and I'll go over this in a minute. And through the knowledge, it says, I don't know the agenda for the meeting, but yes, Michael Horton likes dogs. And here's the cool part, is that if I click on citations, it pops up where the information is that answers this question. So you can add in your own information. You too can have your own chatbot on your website that answers questions. I'm sure all of you who work for technology companies probably have a knowledge base, right? You could plug in your complete knowledge base to this and have ChatGPT answer your questions and answer your visitors' questions. Really cool. This is free. And I'm using, which I'll get to in a minute, what I call embeddings, which I'll go over in a few minutes, is I'm using Pinecone, and I'm using the free tier. Free. We like free. All right, next. API keys. Michael, I promise I will not get technical. Promise. People here have heard of API keys, right? It's a username and password on steroids, right? It allows one person or system to connect to another person or system in a secure way, right? Why are these important? Because OpenAI GPT keys are the direct line to a good time. Why is that? Because every commercial model out there, you will not be able to run on your local system. You can go out and get a 4070, which I did and I regret it, and I can't run most of the models out there. You have to run a model in the cloud. Okay, well, if I'm going to run a model in the cloud, someone else is running it. And then you have to pay for that. Why not go to the best model out there? GPT-4, hands down, is the best model commercially available, period, end of story. So what I want to do is, you know what? I'm going to fall on that sword. I'm going to pay $20 a month to OpenAI, and that gives me access to API keys to access ChatGPT 3.5, which is what Jace was using, or ChatGPT 4, or the other 30 models that OpenAI has, right? So I'm going to jump in. All of you saw this a few minutes ago, right? This is where you can select what model you use, ChatGPT. If you pay for Plus, and I saw you did, Jace, I saw your little plus icon here. If I hit ChatGPT 4, you may not know this, it can browse the web as well. So you can tell ChatGPT to browse the web or use any one of 100 or so different plugins that people have written, right? So that's only the start of the game because, like I said, we want to use those API keys elsewhere. Now, the API keys you can get from ChatGPT. You sign up, you pay 20 bucks, you get an API key that you generate. I'm not joking, it's only 20 bucks a month. You do have to pay every time you make a call with the API, but we're talking peanuts. Here's what I mean by peanuts. On the right-hand side is just a sampling of the different models that OpenAI has built. If you were to get 1,000 tokens, I know that's confusing. Tokens are the way they count ins and outs. We like words. There really isn't an exact approximation, or exact equivalent. So 700 words, 750 words costs about 1,000 tokens. That's half a penny. Oh, that's 6 cents, right? If you wanted to do a 100-page book, that's 25,000 words, you'd pay about 10 bucks. It's not very expensive. I had a filmmaker friend of mine who needed to translate about 50 hours of Japanese audio into English. And he had a nice prompt to put it in ChatGPT, but he didn't have an account. So I just gave him my API keys and he ran the whole thing through my account and then just, paid me the money afterwards. So it's not expensive to do. Okay, so chat with your stuff. Remember I mentioned embeddings a few minutes ago? So this is the simplest way I could explain it, right? This is us today. This is us tonight, right? I'm a user's, right? I'm using a web UI. I use a search service like ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT gives me an answer, right? But when you're using embeddings, you're doing something like this. You're taking your docs that are at the bottom, you're indexing them, you're using math. I hate math. And creating good, someone else. Thank you. And so they're using math to convert this into vector embeddings, mathematical probabilities. And what you get is your awesome stuff with a little bit of math, and that's what you get with the Anything-LLM I showed you. So obviously we can see the easy use cases for this, right? A chatbot, my own personal assistant. You can have Scarlett Johansson as her, right? You could build that. You can have a personal assistant, right? You can do data analysis. But as Jace pointed out, you also can emulate someone's writing, right? If I were to ask ChatGPT to write a script of 5 things in the voice of Michael Kammes, it'll do it. As you saw, we can do a voice emulation. Last month, we uploaded Michael Horton's voice and made him say something. It can also do visual emulation. We saw that with Color Lab, with emulating the look that Wes Anderson did. And this is exactly why, again, as Jace pointed out, thank you so much for setting all this up, is that this is what the unions are fighting for. This is what all 3 unions, well, maybe not Directors Guild anymore, but the Writers and the Screen Actors Guild are fighting right now to say, no, you can't use AI to replace us as a writer. You can't use us for these tasks. And that's why we have to make sure that we're holding people accountable, because if not, this is going to become a government regulatory body. And models are going to have to go through some kind of oversight committee, and this will be a torturous AI existence. When you saw the fact that we could chat with our own stuff, you probably thought, well, that's a good idea. Maybe I should get in on that. A couple months ago, Pinecone got a $100 million investment on a $750 valuation just because they can store your shit somewhere for ChatGPT. So let's make your own ChatGPT. How can we do that? Okay. Anyone know where this icon comes from? No? Okay. It's a place called Hugging Face. Whoops, we go back there. Hugging Face. And I don't know why it's not letting me click on that. Try one more time. All right, well, we're going to just exit out. Hugging Face. Okay. Hugging Face is a clearinghouse for models and data sets. So anytime you use AI, it's a model, right? Whether it's a model trained on matching image to image or text to image, or if you look on the left-hand side here, one of 40 different models, image to image, text classification, fill masks, text to speech, audio to audio. These are all categories that models have been trained in. And you can go to Hugging Face and download those models and use them. And if you are a GitHub repo, and if you don't know what I just said, just blank out for the next 10 seconds. If you are a GitHub repo kind of person, there are a ton of free repos you can fork, download that will use these models to do your bidding. They also have what they call data sets, which are actually question and answer that have been built around certain topics. See, for me, I feel the future of this isn't one big brain that knows everything, because you can't run that everywhere. It's going to be one kind of big brain that can reach out to other little brains that specialize in things to answer your questions. So Hugging Face is a place where you can download your own model and then load that model into any number of applications, especially on GitHub. Everyone with me so far? As you can download a lot of these applications that allow your own models off of GitHub. It's a place where programmers download and share code. So I just want to give you some math here, because there's a big, I don't say underground, but there's quite a bit of folks who say, I'm not going to pay for this, goddammit. All right, whatever. I'm not going to pay half a penny a call. I want my own model. Hey, that's cool, right? If I could build cars, I may want to build one, but at some point in time, look, I'm just going to go hit the used lot and buy something that's already done, right? And this is why. If you look at these numbers up here, ChatGPT 3.5, which is not even the most current version of ChatGPT, was trained on 175 billion parameters. ChatGPT 4 has 100 trillion. Although they dispute that claim, it's still a lot more. GPT-4 was trained on a more diverse set of data. GPT-4 has 45 gigabytes of training data compared to GPT-3's 17 gigabytes. If you go to Hugging Face and you download these models, right? These models are going to be 7 billion or 13 billion or 33 billion, maybe 65 billion. They're bad enough that if you run them on your 2-year-old computer and you ask who Michael Horton is, it's going to say Michael Horton milks cows out in Iowa. It hallucinates horribly. In fact, remember I told you a few minutes ago I was kind of bummed that I bought a NVIDIA 4070 for $800? That can only run a 30 billion parameter model, and that card came off the assembly line less than 6 months ago. So for you trying to run a model that is like ChatGPT 3.5 or 4, you're not going to. And that's why this is in the cloud, and that's why they can charge for this. Because unless you're willing to dump tens of thousands of dollars into graphics cards on your home system, you're not going to be able to run models that are as accurate as ChatGPT 3.5 and 4. They get you. So there's a couple cool sites I want you to check out. One of them is, if you're familiar with AutoGPT, AutoGPT is a great idea of, I'm going to tell AI what I want it to do, and then it will spawn several services to say, I think you need to do this. In order to do this, you have to write this. To write this, you need to do this. And it will build that logic for you and then spin up those models to do it. It's wrong more than it's right, but it's pretty cool. AutoGPT, if you don't want to get your fingers dirty, godmode.space can do the same thing. But what I want to impress upon you is all of these sites want to use API keys because ChatGPT is better. So just keep that in mind. Chatbot UI is another cool one. Chatbot UI takes what I showed you here in ChatGPT and adds things like automatic prompts, like what Jace showed, or be able to reference other people's prompts. So it just adds more to the experience. It's just sprinkles on the AI sundae. We also have ChatGPT for all, which is kind of an open source way of getting ChatGPT for everyone. The only problem is, and I'll bring that up, ChatGPT for all.io. If I can type this right. No, I typed it where I typed wrong. It is just GPT. Yes, you're right. Thank you. Good eye. There we go. So this is a free-to-use, locally running, privacy-aware chatbot. No GPU or internet required. And while that's awesome, if we scroll down here and they show you all the performance benchmarks, you're like, yeah, that looks really good. And then you scroll to the bottom and you find one of the most basic models of ChatGPT is in the thick of all of these, right? So even their best one is only marginally better than a base level pre-ChatGPT 3.5 model. So I'm not trying to ish on ChatGPT for all or GPT for all, but I want you to know that when you are trying to run something on the cheap, we're not at the point where you're going to get the quality that you would get when you're paying half a penny per call, right? Some other things to look into. This is my new favorite toy. Jason, as someone who's entering the realm of programming, you'll get it. You'll like this. GPT Engineer, which is also on GitHub, is a way for you to say, I want you to write the video game Snake, ask me questions to clarify that, and build it. And so you put in, I want a snake as a sprite, and the goal is to avoid it. And it will say, what language should this be written in? It will then say, how many players? It will then say, what color scheme do you want? And it will ask clarifying questions until it feels they're answered. It will then write it for you and then say, was this right? And you say, no, dumbass, do this. And it will iterate. That's cool. Anything-LLM, which I showed you a few minutes ago. And then I also talked about, downloading your own model. If you wanted to go to Hugging Face and download your own model, there is a, again, GitHub repo called Text Generation Web UI. You may have heard the name Ooga Booga out there. That's the person who put this together. But this is a front end for all of those models. So you download Text Generation Web UI, you download any model you want, basically, from Hugging Face, and you hit go. And there is your own personal chatbot. Sure. If you want to take a look at videos, you go to YouTube, right? You want to take a look at code, you go to GitHub. And GitHub is a way of keeping track of code, letting various people collaborate or fork it. They allow people to add notes. They allow people to add their own code. And it's a way that a lot of businesses just use it so multiple programmers can track code. So you can go to GitHub and people build software and say, here, it's free, use it. Some of it's technical. Some of it says, look, you got to do a bash script. Look, you got to use NPM or Yarn to deploy this. So, if you're not someone who likes digging into code a little bit, it may be a little difficult, but there's also a lot of people who have had so many people contribute that all you have to do is one command, and it's done. For example, Anything-LLM, it took me 3 commands to get it into what they call Docker, which is just a software application that gets GitHub repos. And I hit play, and it's now there. Right? So GitHub is as deep as you want it to go, but with AI, there's no short of projects. So that, I believe, is my presentation. What else can I answer for you?